Nice. Hey everyone, it's Will Middleton and Kurt Von Ahnen from LifterLMS. We're going to be answering pre-sales, getting started. Any questions you have in the chat, drop them on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We'll see them come in. And we're going to be diving into some questions we had in the last week as well. And I've been seeing a couple of questions around LifterLMS SkyPilot, and I think it'd be good to dive into that a little bit too. And hopefully my connection doesn't end up being too bad. New place with new Wi-Fi this week for me. Let's see.
Boom.
YouTube.
Boom, I'm with you, babe.
All right, nice. Well, I guess while I'm queuing up some questions from YouTube, SkyPilot and blocks are kind of a whole new thing. Cutting edge of WordPress, a lot of features and functionality buried in there. I don't know, Kurt, have you had any insights or tips for the viewing audience about exploring into this new tool, exploring into the settings panels? Because I know a lot of the stuff isn't labeled. Over on that right-hand side, there's like a gear icon, a little half moon icon for the styling, and then just a bunch of other icons. And that's assuming you don't have anything else installed for blocks. That's just WordPress out of the box, a bunch of icons and buried settings. Do you have any tips for people with learning this new thing?
So this is one of those things that happens in WordPress, and it's like one of those things that happens in Power Sports. It's like one of those things that happens with anything where there's any kind of update or advancement. And that's, everybody does this, So for instance, when I was the trainer at Suzuki, there were certain people at Suzuki that I worked for that believed I should only be responsible to make the training material that pertained to Suzuki models. So this is specifically what you find on a Suzuki GSX-R 1000. This is specifically what you would see on a blah, blah, blah. But the thing is there's technicians out there that still didn't understand how a multimeter worked, or, the general theories of a charging system. And so then I would say, hey, we need to make courses that teach guys about how a multimeter works and how the charging system works and how it generates electricity through magnets and all this stuff. And then people would argue about who's responsible to train what. And I think when you take that example and you lay it over SkyPilot and block editing and full site editing, I think we enter into a similar situation. I've been noticing I get a lot of people, because of my affiliation with Lifter, asking me for video tutorials on how to use SkyPilot. Well, SkyPilot is a theme, right? So what they're really asking for is they're asking for video tutorials on how does WordPress work. And that's like, well, there's tons of resources out there for WordPress and staying up to date on WordPress. And do we really have the bandwidth to make, ongoing video tutorials about how the basis or the foundation of building a website works? Or do we need to focus on the features and functions that are isolated to just LifterLMS? And so that's one of those hard things that we have to figure out. And I'm not saying that I have the right answer, but I'm saying somewhere in the middle of that is something that makes sense. I've shown a lot of people, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. This is how you add the theme. And this is how the main thing I thought that we should cover would be like how to work with the menu. I found the menu to be confusing. But to your point, if someone adds in Spectra, for some reason, that's going to add more elements or more options to that WordPress editing area. If someone adds in, cadence blocks, that might add some different element or styling benefit, because there's a new cadence release too, isn't there? A cadence full site editing thing?
I haven't
Cadence
seen
Cloud
that
or something.
I haven't seen that one. Cadence Cloud.
Yeah, I think it's called Cadence. I want to say Cadence Cloud, like within the last couple of weeks. I know that I have clients that are looking at going the whole cadence direction now, like to get off of, God, I hate to say it, but to get off of Astra Pro and get onto Cadence Cloud. So yeah, it becomes it's hard to discuss how to use your product the way that people expect us to be able to explain that, when the use of that product is also dependent upon the surrounding products that are intertwined with it.
Right.
Well, like, and we, we can say, let's promote Susie Webb right here because she's awesome, right? So Susie Webb's awesome. But if you look at what Susan Wheeler was doing, she took SkyPilot and was one of the first people I knew of that took SkyPilot and said, well, I'm going to plow it into Elementor because I like Elementor better than blocks.
Right.
And so that becomes a whole different story. The SkyPilot is a great theme, but at the end of the day, it's a theme. How deep do you really need to go?
Yeah. And even with just the theme out of the box, if you install LifterLMS, SkyPilot, nothing else in WordPress, there is just a new mentality of thinking about how you edit things with blocks and templates. Like there's more power available than there had been in the past. When you use a tool like Elementor or Divi, they have what's called a header builder and a footer builder where you can use the elements in those page builders to build out certain items for your website, build out a header, assign it to the header. And the same thing exists in WordPress blocks, but there's a little bit more of a fluid interface where you click into the header and now you're editing the header, or you can make a second header really easily and then accidentally use that in one of your templates and then not understand what's going on, where you have two headers. I've seen that happen. And there's the post content block is one I see so much confusion about, is like, what is this new post content block? And that's a new mentality with templates. Elementor's always had this, but you can have like, what I saw happen was someone had a home page on their website and you can create a page template for that, right? A page template that only applies to this one page. And so then what they did is they put content into this template. Like they just put in some groups, blocks, testimonials, and some things like that into the template. And then they also put that content on the home page, but in their template, they had a content block. So the template had a content block and then a bunch of custom content. And then they didn't understand when they're trying to change things, like, what is going on here? Like, why can't I edit certain things? It's because you have some things are a part of your template and some things are a part of your post content, and they're separate. They're like kind of, the template system is just an interesting way to think about WordPress. And I think a lot of people struggle to think in those terms.
Well, here's a little piece of transparency. When I first started trying to dive deeper with Elementor and experimented with themes and templates and things inside the Elementor space, I found myself doing the same exact thing. I built a whole homepage as a template and then didn't realize that when I wanted to edit that page, I was actually having to go back and edit the template in the future, right? To be able to change things, right? But it wasn't actually in the homepage. It was like the homepage template that was assigned to the homepage. So I can see how people can get confused and make those kinds of mistakes, but I think that's something that just, it comes with time. Everyone wants to push the easy button and have an instant answer, when in reality, there's not much replacement for experience. There's not much replacement for being hands-on. People don't like that answer. But here I go. We're gonna lose viewers, man. I'll be eating my charcuterie board all by myself.
Getting hands-on. Yeah, eating a charcuterie board. Yeah, it's that whole experience of getting hands-on with the product and figuring it out that way is how I learn things. Whenever people ask questions, I don't really know the answer. I just explore the tool and figure it out. And it's not really anything that they couldn't do. It's sort of just like passing it off. Like, I couldn't find this. And it's like, so I was looking at a setting for menus because the menus are a complicated block in full site editing because it's almost a block of blocks. You have like a navigation block, and then you have certain navigation item blocks within that block. So it's kind of like it's not a group, but it could also be embedded in a group, which could be in a column, or like, you've got all kinds of nesting that's going on. And so using that document overview, that list view option, super useful. I'm going to pull up starter site I have.
Cool.
See if I can and then share my screen and hope my internet doesn't crash. Being over here in Greece, I have a lot less reliable internet, but it seems like it's going okay so far. I've only broken up a couple times.
Your signal's doing much better today than it did last week.
Awesome. Well, I'm sitting right here next to the router. Last week I was at a building where I didn't have a router in my room, and so I'm lucky to sit right here next to it. And I realized maybe next time I come here, I should bring an Ethernet cable or something. That's not something I travel with, is an Ethernet cable, but it might be a good idea. So let me share this page. Share this right here. Cool.
It's coming. There it is.
Nice. So make sure I have SkyPilot active. Yeah, I've got the editor option. So SkyPilot is active here on my site. Let me not open that in a new tab. So exploring this editor a little bit, I think most of these SkyPilot settings, all of them really, are going to be inside of this editor. So I clicked on editor. Let's give it a minute to refresh. It's coming. There it goes. So we have the template and the template parts. And like we were talking about earlier, template parts are going to be header, footer, a couple of other. These are some custom ones I had. And I think I could actually get rid of these too. These were some that I had made that are no longer necessary. At one point in time, shortcodes were not working in the WordPress editor. And that's something that the WordPress core had created something that it created an issue where it would sort of, I think it would, what's that called when you don't execute code? I forgot what that's called. Inside of a field, like it's something developers do in order to prevent sites from being hacked. When code's injected into a field of a website, like a form, sometimes we get contact form submissions and they have a bunch of code in them. I assume a lot of people have seen that.
Yeah.
You've seen that, just spam. And so there's, it's going to come to me. There's a method where you, like, as a developer, you don't execute code that's in certain fields in order to prevent the site from being hacked by people doing that. And so sometimes if you have a form builder, whatever, that doesn't, cleanly work with this code here, or cleanly, man, I'm going to come up with the name of that. They don't stop that code from being executed. It just executes the code, inserting files from a foreign server into your backend, which populates some stuff, malware, whatever they're trying to put on your website. So I think that the WordPress did a security measure like that. And what happened is they didn't show shortcodes. Like, shortcodes are supposed to generate some kind of content, and it was happening on all plugins. And then WordPress actually fixed this. It wasn't totally intentional that they did it this way. They were kind of thinking that plugin companies were super up to date and that they wouldn't need to use shortcodes and that they're going to migrate everything to blocks, but it ended up causing a lot of disruption. So they did another update, seeing how much like lashback the WordPress community had, because even though blocks are the new thing, we still have a lot of people using shortcodes. So they went back on it, using shortcodes in the block editor specifically. So they went back on it, and now there's support for shortcodes again. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those two template parts I no longer need. Yeah, that was just a little side tangent. So what is it called when you it's not an exit command. This is gonna bother me if I don't figure this out. I'll
you can't just forget about it and move on, can you?
Yeah. But going back out into the template system here, this is where I really see a lot of people getting confused. We have a page home template, for example. If I modify this, we can see I've got, open up this list view. I recommend every user work with this thing. I never work with blocks without this thing open. Shows me what's going on my page. And my page here is pretty simple. I've got a header, a footer, and these are purple. You can see they're kind of highlighted a little bit differently because these are templates themselves. Those are the template parts we were looking at in that other screen. And it's confusing because I can just edit this right here. I can just start messing with the blocks, putting in new blocks. But when I did that, you see it changed a header up here at the top. Page home header. Specifically, if I jump down here to the group, it goes back down to page home. So making sure to look at that top center area, I think is one area most people don't look at. And it tells you what you're editing. But it is confusing when you can jump around here and click on anything you want. And really all that's on this page is a post content block in the center area here. Post content block. And what that means is that for my homepage, it's just going to grab the content of that post, which is going to be some blocks. If I exit my full site editor here and I go over to pages and I edit my homepage, let's make sure home is the front page. If I edit this.
Hey, Will, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yeah.
We have this question here, and I would just want to address it just so they don't think they're being ignored.
Okay.
He said that they reached out to the LifterLMS team, help emails, but no response for a week. So I'm locked out of my account. What should I do? I don't want you to share personal contact information on a live feed. I think that would be a mistake. So I just put in here that, for emailed questions, email help@lifterlms.com. I did a quick search while you were talking, Will, and their name was Heal Into Alignment, and I didn't see anything from Heal Into Alignment. So if you've sent an email or you've sent something, I'm not showing it in our system. And I hope that the last time we got this on one of these live calls, they were actually a customer of one of our competitors. So so I just want to make sure we got the right people, the right place, and help at LifterLMS is definitely the place to go for that inquiry, so you're not sharing personal private information on a live feed. There you go. Sorry, Will.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't see any emails in there. There's currently 0 unassigned emails. I have a bunch of assigned emails to me around third parties and invoices and some stuff to get through there. But yeah, we currently don't see anything in there. So if you send another message, and that could be, let us know what website you're locked out of, academy.lifterlms.com, lifterlms.com. Yeah, help@lifterlms.com is going to be the best place to go for that, like Kurt said.
Yeah, it is not normal to not get a response from LifterLMS. So check your spam folder. That's another thing. Sometimes we send the response and it goes to spam. If you don't have us whitelisted or it's not coming to your inbox, I can't fix your email client or your spam guard, but we do send responses. So, but like I said, I checked and I didn't see any history of Heal Into Alignment, but it may be under a different email address or different name or something like that as well. So just want to throw that out there and make sure we answer a question when it comes up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't see that one come in. And I've seen that before where people have a full email inbox or something like that, some sort of email client issue. So then they try to reset their password, don't get the email, then they email us, we email them back, but they don't get that email either because there's something wrong with the email inbox system. That's happened to me before. I'm at like 94% with my Gmail storage, and I keep deleting photos and videos to try to keep it below 95% full. Because I could either pay more money to get more storage, but then I'm just going to fill it up with more 4K videos, and I'll be in the same position I'm in. So I got to focus on minimizing. But I've had issues like that before where I stopped receiving emails because there's some sort of issue on that end. But jumping back over to here, this is what I was talking about was the template system. So in SkyPilot, we have the homepage template, and all I had in that template was page content. And so if I jump over to edit my homepage, there's all kinds of stuff here. And this is the content of the page. We see we've got a title. And then if I open up the list view, ton of groups with a ton of these blocks and spacers and everything. This is all content that's going to be pulled into that post content block. And I think understanding that post content block is absolutely essential if you're working with a full site editing theme like SkyPilot. And we've been having a lot of discussions internally at Lifter about what kind of content are we going to create around full site editing, because full site editing is not unique technology to LifterLMS. It feels like it is to me because we are kind of on the cutting edge here developing on the full site editing, which in 5 years, probably every theme is going to be on full site editing. So every WordPress user is going to know this interface of header, footer, content, post content block, and all this kind of stuff. But currently, most themes don't support the full site editing. And so it still feels kind of obscure. It still feels unique to SkyPilot. But if we take a look at like the Elementor builder and Divi builder, it's similar concepts, header, footer, even post content is a block that exists within Divi and Elementor. When you create a template in those tools, you can insert a post content block. Most people don't do that though. Most people will insert, when building templates in a system, they'll insert specific fields. Like if they're creating a lesson template in Elementor, they'll insert the featured video field for the lesson, which would basically say whatever lesson this is, take the featured video and put it here. And so post content is just something that most people maybe are just a little bit undereducated on, don't understand how it works. It's a little bit abstract. And when you hear the word post content, you might think it doesn't apply to pages, it doesn't apply to lessons. That's a thing for posts, blog posts, right? Because WordPress also calls blog posts posts. But everything in WordPress is a post. So it's just kind of something that is good to know for sure. Yeah, so heal into alignment. Yeah, if you just send another email, help@lifterlms.com. Currently, there's nothing in the inbox actually here, which I'm proud of the team. I'm surprised. Like we had emails for a while, kind of building up because we're in the middle of cycle work period, but we've gotten down to 0 inbox today, and that's the first time that's happened in a long time. Like just like 2-3 weeks. But I guess, Kurt, have you had anyone integrate into SkyPilot? I know you do a lot of website builds for clients and customers. Have you had like a client or customer yet in a full site editing theme yet? I know you've built some projects, but have you integrated and seen some questions come up from any like actual end users who are new to WordPress or maybe new to this technology? Oh, and you're muted. Yeah.
All right. So the only thing that I've really, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, the only time that I feel that there's been confusion, again, recognizing it as just a theme in WordPress, it's been over the menu, because you still have the menu option. Maybe they changed that with an update. Let me make sure that I'm not talking out of my rear end.
Here.
Dashboard, menus. Yeah, so you can still go down to appearance and menus and go to the menu, the former menu editing space, and you can adjust menus in there. But the confusion comes in, like you can change a menu, you can save a menu, and then you go to look at the website and the menu doesn't change because you also have to change it in the site builder. And that's the only place where I've really seen stark confusion from what's expected versus what the result is.
Yeah, that's a good point to highlight. Is that navigation block we were talking about a little bit earlier. Now the functionality in menus reflects an importing feature. So when you create one of these navigation blocks, you import a menu. So over on the right-hand side, I think it's somewhere around here. Oh yes, the 3 dots. Yep. So these are the menus I've created in the past. These are the 2 import classic menus. And when people see the dropdown, they don't really read the term that says import classic menu. It's like, what does that mean? It means what it's going to do is take one of your classic menus, which is that interface Kurt was talking about that we just showed, and it's going to import it into this new interface. It's not going to dynamically update it because we're not actually adding a menu from there. We're just importing the items. And so what it does is it takes this old menu editing interface and it converts that into blocks. It's sort of a one-time convert this into blocks right now sort of thing. So then if you go change it later, it's not going to reflect on your live website in that classic area because you would maybe have to delete your menu and then re-import it, or you would just do the modern editing interface for menus that WordPress is excited about, which is just adding a block like this. So on the right-hand side, we have these little plus buttons, these little a blue plus button up here, a black plus button over here in the middle. And whenever you're editing something, there's a little plus button in the corner. Now there's a new area on the WordPress page over here on the right side in the bottom where there's another plus button. So it's like there's blocks on the left, blocks in the center, blocks on the right. And so if you wanted to add a navigation item, you could do it right here. So below contact, you can see contact over here on the left and contact over here on the right. If I click plus, we can add a menu, and there's a couple of blocks specific to menus, like custom link, page link. This is something we've seen before, a link to a page, where it's going to pull up my pages on my WordPress website. And then I could also, page link, let me delete that one. Remove page link. I could do it over here from the right-hand side too, if I did not do that. If I were to do like a plus and do like a page link, I think I can do it here too. Page link. So it's going to drop a page link in, and so you can do it over on the right or on the left, but the left is a little bit easier of an interface to work with. If I go back to my navigation block, I can do a link to a page, custom link, or LifterLMS. That's a new block in LifterLMS 7.2 is the LifterLMS link, which is going to be maybe a sign in, sign out kind of thing. When I add this LifterLMS link, I click into it, and now I'm editing this LifterLMS link block. And that's the big point of confusion I've seen is like, what am I editing when I click on things? And that's why this list view over here on the left is so important to see. Just a second ago, my right-hand side over here looked completely different, and that's because I was editing the navigation block. But now, once I clicked on this, you can see on the left, it jumped me down to the LifterLMS link block. That's what I'm editing right now. So that's the big thing I've seen is confusion. Is people don't understand what they're editing, so they might not even have the list view open. They're just kind of clicking around, click on this. I'm editing a page link, but it's like, how do I edit the menu again? I have to kind of find where this navigation thing is at. There it is. Like I was clicking around somewhere in this little white area, and it brought me to the navigation block. And then I clicked on this button, and it brought me to the groups block. It's very hard to tell what I'm editing when I click around. That's why I like the 3 lines up here at the top that show me very clearly what I'm editing and the settings for that block. Question came up about styling the menu for mobile. We can see there's a display option for the icon. When a menu gets too compact or too small on mobile, we see a hamburger menu typically. And so you can change the icon for that. I don't know if you can open up a custom icon for that. You can just do 2 or 3 bars for your hamburger menu. But there are just some settings around that. And I've seen one thing I don't even know how to do is there's a mobile view. I don't even know how to do the mobile view option. I've seen someone do it, so I know that it's possible, but see if I can figure that out. Live on stream here. This is there. Okay, there we go. So this is going to smash my page down a little bit so we can see that icon I was talking about. Open this up a little bit. But for the LifterLMS links, I'll just quickly wrap this up, is we can have a URL to sign in, sign out. These are those LifterLMS items that we're used to seeing in the classic menu editing area. And yeah, let me jump back out. I'm going to remove my LifterLMS link from my menu and save this. And that's one thing I just kind of skipped over actually. When I click save, let me put a LifterLMS link back on here. I click save twice, but when I click save, it actually has a pop-up window that says, are you ready to save? You're going to be saving the navigation menus block here. That's what I'm saving. But if I save, or I edit a couple of other things, like if I were to edit the header and put something maybe below here, a little bit of an awkward interface there, but if I save this, it's also going to be modifying template part header in addition to my navigation menu. So it's telling me what I'm updating, and I can uncheck the box if I want to save my change to the navigation menu, but I don't want to save this change. I could do that. So then if I go to the front end of my website, leave out of here, I can kind of have more control over what I save. And I didn't save that paragraph text I added, so I'm going to leave without saving. Just understanding what you're saving, what you're editing is super important. Oh, and this is a bug we found related to me and Rocco and Chris were troubleshooting this the other day.
When you were asking about the mobile view, did you find that? It's the view button that's at the top right.
Oh, nice. There we go.
And it puts it right into the screen for you.
Pretty nice.
It's like the preview button in the other block editor, except that it previews it right in the same screen instantly instead of taking 30 seconds to spool up.
Right. Yeah. Let's see, bro.
That 30 seconds might be a reflection of my hosting, so don't get mad at WordPress.
Let's see. So what I did is I added a LifterLMS link, and I left it blank. It's a little bit gray here. You see how it's a little bit of a lighter gray color than the other items. Over here on the right, there's a URL field, and you see dashboard is selected with a little check mark, but it's not selected. When you submit things from this little JavaScript React interface here on the right to the database, you have to have a value for the setting that you're submitting. We're saying we're doing a LifterLMS link, and this is the value for the URL. And it appears that dashboard is selected, but it's not. So if you change it to my courses, you see it goes to a darker black color. And we change it back to dashboard. Now it's going to be a darker black, and we're not going to have that error on the front end of the website. It's just a challenge that when you load the interface, so yeah, Kurt, you might run into this with customers who have that random error message on the top. And it's just because there's not actually a value selected for that field, even though it kind of looks like there is. It's a tricky one. We spent like 30 minutes figuring that out.
What do you mean I got to have something here?
Yeah, it's like, it kind of makes sense intuitively. But they're going to write like the bug fix, right, is to write code to actually automatically fill in a default item for that submission. And that's not in there yet. I did a feature request live stream about this download monitor. You checked it out last week with Christian Raber from Download Monitor. And a bunch of people came in the comments asking questions about just features completely unrelated, like LifterLMS groups and stuff. So throwing out the word feature request on live streams is dangerous, and we don't really control here, you know, what the product team prioritizes regarding groups, regarding creating an app with LifterLMS, but we do control kind of the integration partnership and what Download Monitor is going to be diving into developing. So I'm excited to see what they come out with for LifterLMS, limited downloads, reporting on downloads, safer protecting of your files, and all that kind of stuff. That's going to be a really cool tool with Lifter. And there's all kinds of architecture behind protecting downloads in WordPress. It's new information to me, how most course creators, most people who use WordPress work with that media library for storing files. When you upload a picture, you upload a PDF, whatever, you put it in the media library, and then you get a URL to it, and you put it in your lessons. You can embed it, but it's still in this public folder called the media library. And this is usually indexed by Google. And so you can use plugins like Yoast SEO in order to no index files in the media library in this folder. And I think of the media library now more as a folder than I did before. Like, we have folders on our desktop, folders on our phones, and things like that. But I didn't think of the media library as a folder. That's really all it is a public folder on your website where you can store assets and then plant them in other places on your website. And so not a super secure folder. So what Download Monitor does is create a more secure folder and then put the files in that folder instead. And then it protects serving those files and has reporting about serving the files. So when people may click a button to download something from this protected folder, it could implement restrictions on that download. It could limit the number of times that user is allowed to download the file. It could limit the number of times the file is allowed to be downloaded. It can also get statistics and reporting based on the access to those files in the folder, and just features regarding access to files in this folder. So it's kind of cool to to think about the whole architecture behind that. And it's a lot of work to make that work. It sounds kind of simple. Maybe the way I explained it there is just making a separate folder and have some rules for accessing it. But then we take a step back of every single web host is sort of a platform. If you're on GoDaddy or Cloudways or WP Engine, you're on a completely different server that's configured totally different. And it looks the same in a lot of ways on the front end of WordPress, but they have all kinds of rules themselves about accessing certain files. So Download Monitor has all kinds of work to do with web hosts to make sure they're compatible with different web hosts and creating these folders and implementing these download rules. A lot of work goes into making sure these integrations with every host works. And I get that. I think I see that question more and more as we see applications like Kajabi and Teachable as sort of a full stack kind of LMS solution. They of course manage your files and have certain architecture built around this. But when building in WordPress, there's a lot more integration you can do. But then there's a lot more of that fundamental site architecture you're working with. So it's important to kind of understand that there's a bunch of moving parts with that. Web hosting, LMS functionality, content protection functionality. There's all kinds of pieces and moving parts with that. So there's like the idea of like, well, at Lifter, you should just build this. And it's like the development hours, development support, and the amount of resources that would go into that is just kind of outside of the abilities we have at LifterLMS right now to be able to manage that entire business that Download Monitor's built a business on top of. It's like we can't really just build that in one add-on and do it anywhere as successfully as they're doing it. They have a full team behind the product.
Well, and support's like one of the biggest issues. I mean, just recently, I've been looking at some of the stuff that comes to us, and I'm like, they're not people, course creators more and more aren't using the product straight out of the box. Now it's, I want it to do this. I want it to do that. I want it to ping customers for this result. I want it to, you know, connect to this and connect to that and automate this other thing. And, you know, for my payment, I want someone to, I just met with someone this week and they said, for our payment structure, it is the first payment is, let's just say $200. And we call that an initiation fee. And then they get 2 months at no charge because so it's like pay a $200 initiation fee for your account and access for 2 months, you know, for 2 months free. And then on the third month, your subscription of $10.95, you know, starts. And I'm like, hold on, hold on. That's, you know, so I'm like, well, you could write the $200 up as a trial. So you could say $200 for a trial for 60 days and then start a, you know, $10 a month subscription. But then they go, well, we don't want it to say trial. We want it to say initiation fee. Well, then you're like, well, now you got to go to Local Translate or something. And you got to this and you got to that. So it's like, when, to your point, when you say customers go, oh, it's just an easy feature request. It's just, all you got to do is add a little code. And it's like, no, all you got to do is add a little code and then babysit that decision for the rest of your life with everybody that wants to use that, and then morph it and modify it and tweak it for their own gain. That's the hard part. It's like everything you build, it's exponentially more difficult to support it in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the challenge with that is on an individual website, it's pretty easy to change the code and then just have it run. But then when delivering a software product to tens of thousands of websites, if you were to change something in the code and then ship that change to those websites, it would change it and break it on like a bunch of other people's websites. And so just making it kind of work is a real development challenge that I'm learning a lot about. That's kind of on a macro level. We're talking about changing a feature, kind of how that works. But then on under the hood, there's a lot that goes into it as well. When we read the change log, all of the fundamental architecture of how the system works, there's a lot more to it. It's almost like, I mean, to me, it's like opening up the hood of a car. There's a lot of workings that go into that the average consumer of the product doesn't understand the internal mechanisms of it. And I'm trying to learn more about it, WordPress under the hood. But there's a good amount to that. Let's see if I have any replies here in Facebook. Yeah, we got, man, there's so many people in Facebook and YouTube and all kinds of comments. It's good to have a lot of questions, but I get paragraphs sent to me all the time about, oh, this, that, and then it's a lot. So this person, we'll just kind of summarize this. They want to do a I don't remember what they want to do. They have a quiz builder. When a member, like a separate quiz builder, in LifterLMS, there's a quiz builder on lessons where you can create quizzes that are assigned to lessons that students have to pass these quizzes in order to move on to the following lessons. So there's LifterLMS quiz builder, but this is a situation where they want like a survey that chooses what course is going to be taken by the student, and then it gives them a result based on their survey. And that's in LMS terms, that's more of a survey than a quiz, but they're calling it a quiz. So I think, how can I redirect them to this automatically? I don't know. You have to ask the quiz builder software that. Usually quiz builders have conditional redirects. I've seen that in QSM. Quiz and Survey Master is a nice one. In the backend of WordPress, they have like conditional logic redirects, and Gravity Forms does the same thing. When you submit a Gravity form, and I assume WP Forms, Ninja Forms, and Formidable Forms can do the same thing. Probably WS Forms too. Conditional logic is a big one. I've never worked with Interact Quiz Builder. I mean, I think I have a very long time ago, but in the last 5 years, I haven't worked with Interact Quiz Builder. And so I don't know what their options for conditional logic redirects are. Let me figure out how Facebook works. Reply to this. Yeah, okay. Reply to individual comments. The GIFs, I can just reply with a GIF. No, but let's see, say hello. So I haven't worked with Interact Quiz Builder in a long time, but I assume they have some sort of conditional redirect. I know that the founder was talking about this conditional redirect quiz builder. I mean, I remember this in a podcast from like 5 years ago. Interact quiz builder. It's like branching logic. See, like, I could just do a Google search and find this answer, and I'm just gonna like, I don't know why. Branching logic. Yeah, this Interact Quiz Builder thing is nuts compared to the Lifter quiz system. That's another thing. It's like quizzes can be in Lifter pretty simple. It's a pretty simple builder. I have it shared on screen here. It's you can assign points that are weighted. That's probably the most complex thing, is that there's different weights you can have on questions. But it's a pretty simple builder relative to other dedicated quiz building softwares. And I think that's where it's good to focus on. The functionality of the LMS in Lifter is highly centered around courses as a feature. Like courses and content is kind of a big thing. It's just the course structure, if that makes sense. We have memberships as well. And the membership functionality is super extensive. I've built a lot of Lifter LMS websites with just the membership functionality, just for some restrictions. And then quizzes, assignments, these are other components of the system that are kind of tied on, but it's really centered around courses. And then you have platforms like Interact Quiz Builder, which is a solution built around quizzes. That product is dedicated to quizzes. And so it's a little bit less intensive on courses or memberships or content restriction, progression and reporting. It's really just the quiz is the center of the product. Let me make sure these guides kind of answer their question. I saw you had another one come up in chat, Kurt. I don't know if you want to jump to that one.
Sure. I can go ahead and share that. And if it seemed like I wasn't paying attention, I kind of wasn't, because I was looking at other questions to see what we would keep going in the live. But I saw this one on Facebook, and so I copied it into the chat, so it's here. It says my plugin was not updated and had an increase in traffic on the website. The result is, and a lot of people bought. So I think the result is good, right? Because you made more sales. During this buying spree, the website stopped sending welcome emails and emails with order numbers. I did an update, but it does not resolve the issue. The website is still not sending emails. How do I reset this function so that it works? This to me, and Will always feel, safe to correct me, Will, because, I got some humility in that aspect. But I answered her on the Facebook page as, this is one of those examples where you think LifterLMS is sending emails because you're using notifications and engagements through the LifterLMS interface. Hold on, got to sneeze. I think we're done. I think I sneezed. And then, but I think what actually happens is the website is using your hosting or an SMTP service to send emails. And if for some reason your hosting is throttling your email, or you don't have a good SMTP option set up, meaning to send mail, then your site's just basically going to throttle itself and stop. And part of what came out to me in the question was, you said you had a recent increase in traffic. And so I've had real simple websites where I've just loaded up a proof of concept. I haven't done an SMTP service or anything, and it sends those transactional emails like, you've got an account, welcome to this page, here's your username and password. Like, that stuff goes, and people are used to that. But when you start sending a lot of transactional email, or you have dynamic things like shopping carts and LMSs and things like that, or you start trying to put a CRM into your website like Fluent CRM or Groundhog, you start using your website to send marketing and transactional emails, your hosting service is not going to continue to send those emails. It's going to throttle the sending for that site and make you set up a SMTP service like Elastic Email is one that I use. I've used SendGrid quite a bit. I know there's some folks out there that use Mailhawk, but there's these services that process your email for you, and that gets attached to the website and works that way. So what you perceive as a problem with the plugin is actually, a problem with how it works. It's like buying a laptop and saying a laptop doesn't work to get on Facebook, but you haven't paid your internet bill.
Right. Yeah. So like the WP mail function is in every WordPress website to send emails, password resets, LifterLMS notifications, WooCommerce purchase receipts, just whatever emails this website tries to send. And so you should never use that. The correct thing to do
use that.
Yeah, well, you're going to use the WP mail function, but it's not going to, you got to change the server that it's sending emails from, your web host. People all the time, including myself, we just say, we don't need an SMTP server. And just work with what the host has out of the box. And it is, like Kurt said, going to try to send from the web server you're hosting with, but that server is not optimized for delivering emails. That's where the SMTP servers come in. They are optimized for delivering emails, and of course, it's a server on the internet, so they charge money because it costs them money to have this thing up and running. And I think I just set up an SMTP for a client like end of last week, and it was maybe early this week. Time just kind of runs together, but it is a server that you say all emails from this website are going to be sent through this other server instead. And these servers have all the configurations to properly send emails on the internet. And that's something we take for granted. With Gmail, we just sign up for a Gmail account. We send emails. It's pretty simple. But there's all kinds of really expensive architecture that Google put together to create that Gmail interface. And they're hiding from you all of the steps involved, because they create this like super seamless user experience where you just sign up, you have like receiving email and sending email are two very different functions that operate completely differently. But in an email service inbox, we see them as the same thing. Like, boom, we send an email, boom, we receive an email. Pretty simple. But there's outgoing mail, incoming mail, and handling for emails. There's a lot that goes into it. So having that outgoing SMTP servers, that feature you need, maybe from Mailhawk, maybe from SendGrid, maybe from what was the one Elastic Mail, I think, Kurt, you've used that
Elastic
one a lot.
email is one that I use that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that one is pretty cheap. I think that one's like $5 a month for like 10,000 emails a month or something like that.
I'm at like 9 something a month.
Mm.
9
Yeah, so
something.
There's pretty cheap options out there. Let me look at Mailhawk or SendGrid is one we talked about.
Mailhawk used to be, and I don't know if it's still the same pricing or not, but it used to be like $150 for a year, but it did 3 sites.
Yeah, and so I'm looking at SendGrid. That's when we talk about a little bit. I could share that screen. Share pricing plans here at SendGrid. So taking a look at this is an SMTP server. So we look at web hosting. And that's the thing with this is you can't host a WordPress site on this. This is a server dedicated for sending emails. So we'd have our WordPress website hosting through WP Engine, Cloudways, whatever we're using. And then we'd also have an SMTP, $0 a month for how many? 100 emails per day. So if you're on a kind of a low usage level, like most sites are not going to be sending 100 emails per day when they're getting started, unless they're super successful already and they already have that income coming in to be able to support a heavier plan. And that's the big thing is like, if you're sending more than 100 emails per day from your website, you're probably making more than enough money to be able to easily afford one of these SMTP servers. And I think it's another thing where it's like, oh, it's another bill we have to pay for regarding our WordPress website, because there's kind of a lot that can go into these more complex websites. But really, I mean, I can't think of a site that sends more than 100 emails a day that doesn't make more than $20 a month.
Yeah, the hard part about that, though, Will, is that nobody wants to make a website just to break even.
Right, yeah, yeah. If your website sends 100 emails a day regarding password resets, or even if your email list is, I don't know, if you're running an email list out of the back end of your WordPress website, you have 100 people on that email list, and you send them an email every single day, and your conversion rate is 1%, which is like average to bad, you're still making way more than $20 a month. Like, if your average customer value there is going to be like, I don't know, $50 to $100, and you have that email list of 100 users, you're maxing out your 100 emails a day plan, you're converting like $50 a day. Like if you send an email a day and convert one person a day, it's not really like normal. Like you would probably run something out of a CRM like MailChimp that's free for getting started. So my point with SMTP is it's really approachable to get in here. And what is $20 a month for 100,000? No, that's not what that is. I have to mess with this. When is it going to go up? There it goes. So I could do 50,000 emails a month for $20 a month. So it's like, if you need like that level of email, you can probably convert better. Like I think the LifterLMS email list is bigger than that, but it's like not too much bigger than that. And so the whole company can be run off of an email list, and we spend way more than $20 a month for transactional, because we use ActiveCampaign. You see on our emails we send, it's run out of ActiveCampaign. So that's a little bit more of a premium solution that includes more features. And I want to be a little bit clear that ActiveCampaign is a CRM email list tool for managing emails, and this is an SMTP, which are different. But an SMTP is included in a email sending service. ActiveCampaign, MailChimp is composed of a software solution that has that interface where you manage your contacts, and they host that for you. And they also have SMTPs connected themselves in order to send emails. Sending large amounts of emails is really complicated on the web. It's just super heavy usage. So even big companies like ActiveCampaign and MailChimp sometimes struggle with their servers getting a little bit choked. Like I'm sure, Kurt, that you've heard of Mandrill, which is another product from MailChimp. Mandrill is just the SMTP that they use, and you can also sign up for Mandrill if you want to use that instead of SendGrid. There's like a lot of solutions out there for hosting an email SMTP. But also, it's a good problem to have, I think, when your site sends so many emails that your host blocks you from sending emails and you have to buy an SMTP service. It means that you are probably in a good position because you were sending too many emails. And I think different web hosts cap you at different limits. I think 500 a day is pretty common. Some hosts will do 100 a day. WP Engine won't tell you. It wouldn't tell me how many emails they're going to let me send because they want people to abuse it. But like, I think, GoDaddy HostGator was like 500 a day or whatever. They made it public. But that's another reason that those companies get bad reputations in the hosting space, is because people abuse that limit. They're like, oh, I can send 500 emails a day. Let me set up 3 servers. It's like, and then it damages the reputation of the shared server. And now when you sign up for the GoDaddy website, you can't even send any emails to start with because someone else already screwed up the IP address's reputation. It's like, that's the common thing with that more budget hosting. And then the support quality at the company is hit or miss. A lot of times miss because they don't have enough resources to be able to afford that higher quality support. Like I was at a hosting company that I won't name, and it just had a terrible experience where there was a site that was hacked, or it wasn't hacked at all. I thought it was hacked. I thought there was an error in Google. It said when you visit the address URL of the website, any of them, there'd be this red screen that popped up and it says, this is unsafe, this URL. And it said the reason is because it's associated with this other company, this other URL that was different. And I'm like, this is a website that website owner had like 6 years ago. They no longer have this website. They let the domain go, but there were still links to that website in the media files of the website in question. So that's why Google was flagging them. And so simply by removing these links, we were able to get everything sorted. I went to WP Engine support and they told me that in like 10, 15 minutes. They figured that out. Like, oh, you got all these links to this other website here. That's why this is happening. But then I was at this other hosting company that was more of a budget solution, and they told me it was, oh, it's malware. Buy the $70 malware package and we'll fix that. I guarantee you this is malware. And it wasn't. That was like, now I understand how that whole concept works, but this was a while ago when I didn't understand. Like I know how to clean malware off a website. I went through the whole file manager. I saw nothing. And I was like, this is some advanced malware. It's not even in the file manager. It's in the database. Where is the code for this malware? But it turns out it was just links embedded in a media files.
Will, this has been fun, but we're at the top of the hour, my friend.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll keep responding over here on Facebook to this other question, but thanks everyone for joining us. Will Middleton and Kurt Von Ahnen from LifterLMS. Let us know any questions on the platforms you see us on, and we'll circle back to those next week when we're live. We'll probably do a few more lives next week. Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll wrap it up for this week.